All right, now if you're somebody who is too across the line and you're trying to get that club more into a neutral position at the top of the backswing, you have to look at all of the variables that are going to influence the shaft across the line and then see which ones you can change to your benefit. I'll give you the rundown. One of them would be the trail elbow flying, as we call it, which is really internal shoulder rotation. The more I do that, the more my hand presses forward. When I have my hands on the club, that's going to push the club across the line. So if I take that elbow and I now keep it more in front of my body, more externally rotated shoulder, you'll notice how the club starts to lay off. Same thing can be said for your wrist angles. The more throw I have on the trail hand, the more cup I have on the lead hand, I'm going to push that club across the line, even if the elbow's in a good spot. So now if I take this trail wrist and I bend it back, I get the club laid off. If I take the lead hand and I flex it down, I get the club more laid off, or in theory, less across the line. This is something you can use to your advantage. Now, obviously, there are other variables that are going to change when you do this, so it's a little bit more complex than that. If I change this wrist angle into this position, I'll get the club more laid off, but because I'm bowing the lead wrist a lot, the club face will be very strong. So you need to make sure the club face doesn't get too shut when you do it. Again, it's all relative to the player's pattern. There is also things that will happen in the backswing that will cause it to get there. A lot of times I'll see golfers have way too much early forearm rotation. Club gets really inside and behind them, and then the forearms are going to react late in the backswing to stand the club up in the air, and they'll shut down, and that will get the club way across the line. So if you're way inside to way across, that's because of how the forearms are moving. Too open early, and then they react and they close down later. Instead, what you would want to do is obviously the opposite. So keeping the forearms a little bit more closed early, keeping the club more in front of you, creating a little bit of some wrist set here, and then you can start to set the club more behind the body. Obviously, that becomes a little bit more of a complex issue. But really, if you want to actually change the club from being across the line into a more neutral position, look at the wrist angles, look at how the trail arm's moving, look at how the forearms are moving in your backswing. You'll be able to correct it relatively quickly.